Good afternoon, friends. My name is Kama Hamilton Morton, and this is September 22nd, 2020, which means it is the first day of autumn, of fall. The autumn equinox is happening today, which for us in the northern hemisphere means that the light will be getting darker. Those uh, who live in the southern hemisphere, it's springtime is beginning. That word equinox, autumn or autumnal equinox, comes from Latin, equus meaning equal, nox meaning night. So today is a day of balance, of equal day, equal night. So I don't know if you feel in balance or out of balance today, but as we go through the day and the evening, may we think of ourselves striving to live in balance. And I love fall. This is my season. I love the color changes. I love the temperatures, although today was supposed to be a high of 86. And I love some of the imagery. So here are some words about fall. Poet Sarah Morgan Bryan Piatt says, "It is the summer's great last heat. It is the fall's first chill. They meet." And as I think about, I'm wearing today a cross that is a cross of St. Bridget of Ireland. And my folks, my dad and stepmom, Marianne, brought this back for me. And on the edge, I don't know how much you can really see it, but that each of the four arms of the cross are wheat sheaves, and that's part of the imagery for St. Bridget. So I thought on this first day of fall, that was um, a good image to have. It makes me think about my time in rural Montana, in farm and ranch country, and the importance of the harvest season and what it meant to have not only individuals or individual families go out and harvest, but often it was a community thing. Multiple people would come out and help to bring in the harvest and to make that an important part of the community life together. So this sense of fall moves into a time of thinking of all kinds of things. But I was thinking about a scripture from Deuteronomy, of all places, as again thinking about what we do in the harvest and in the wheat fields or other barley fields or other. And so this is from Deuteronomy 24. I invite you to hear these words. It says, "Whenever you are reaping the harvest of your field and you leave some grain in the field, don't go back and get it. Let it go to the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows, so that the Lord your God blesses you in all that you do. Similarly, when you beat the olives off your olive trees, don't go back over them twice. Let the leftovers go to the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows. Again, when you pick the grapes of your vineyard, don't pick them over twice. Let the leftovers go to the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows. Remember how you were a slave in Egypt. That's why I am commanding you to do this thing." So from Deuteronomy 24, verses 19 through 22, a stark reminder for us as we think of how we um, distribute food and basic necessities to those in our communities who are socioeconomically perhaps um, striving harder to get just the basics of life. That if we want to talk about being Bible believing Christians and Bible following Christians or whatever, or Jewish people using these scriptures, that this is a theme that runs throughout the scriptures. That you are to tend to the poor, the immigrant, the widow, the orphan, all words that stream throughout the Bible that remind us to look beyond ourselves into the parts of our parts of the community that where we may need to lean on each other for the basics of life. I don't know about you in this COVID season, but there are times when we need to lean on each other. Sometimes for the basics of life, going to the grocery store for someone, or mental health life, staying in contact with people over video chat or the phone or email, or seeing someone with your masks a little bit distanced. But this mandate from God, which runs throughout the Old and New Testaments, that you are to tend to those who struggle. How are we doing with that? In a nation which seems to value me, mine, and what I'm doing, and that I've pulled myself up by my bootstraps, the Bible reminds us that none of us have pulled us up by our bootstraps, that we all are here because of community. At Grace United Methodist, where I'm preaching, we are in a series where we're looking at the book of Exodus. And I don't know if you've looked at that book in a while, but it too is about, it actually references what Deuteronomy says of being in Egypt and the liberation and the freedom and the costs that come with that. And we're going to be just starting on the journey where the Hebrew people actually leave Egypt, and then what? Now what? And all the renegade, diverse people, and how difficult it is for them to be together, as it is sometimes for us to be together. So there you have it, a little biblical mandate that might stretch us and pull us as we think about the gleaning, the act of leaving what we don't need so that others may benefit from it. So that is a fall image that sustains me today. And I found this quote too as well, which seemed to connect to that sense of gleaning. I found it, some were attributing it to Pope Francis, but there was also other people that it was attributed to. So I don't know who originally wrote it. You know how it happens with Facebook, that someone gets out there and then it just multiplies and you don't know who actually did it. So, but here's an image thinking about that Deuteronomy text. It says, "Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are all born to help each other. No matter how difficult it is, life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you." And so again, how are we doing as we begin this fall season? It's been 6 months since I did one of these meditations. I took summer off, or it's been 3 months, 6 months since I started them in March at the eve of spring, and then I took a Sabbath break during the summer season. So we're back in the fall, and I'm going to see about sharing here and there. Another image and thought in thinking about autumn, I have had friends that have steered me toward the poet Mary Oliver, and I'm delighted to see that through Facebook and other places, a lot of people have discovered or rediscovered Mary and the power of her words. And so on this first day of autumn, I would share this poem, her song for autumn. Don't you imagine the leaves dream now? How comfortable it will be to touch the earth instead of the nothingness of the air and the endless freshets of wind. And don't you think the trees, especially those with mossy hollows, are beginning to look for the fires that will come, 6, a dozen, to sleep inside their bodies? And don't you hear the goldenrod whispering goodbye, the everlasting being crowned with the first tuffets of snow. The pond stiffens, and the white field over which the fox runs so quickly brings out its long blue shadows. The wind wags its many tails, and in the evening the piled firewood shifts a little, longing to be on its way. When I saw that this morning, I was struck by that image. We look at the leaves falling from trees as sometimes an image of grief or loss. And she kind of flips that image to say, what would it be like for those leaves to long for that journey down to the earth, and what kind of different life that will be for them as they then become nourishment for others. Harvest, autumn, fall, leaves turning, weather shifting, at least for some of us. I know my folks that are in Florida, it's going to continue being hot down there. But for those of us who really do experience the seasons throughout the year, this is one that I look forward to. And so, in honor of harvest and the first day of fall and St. Bridget and her wheat sheaves, I'm going to close with a song. This is an oldie and goodie that some may know, called Bringing in the Sheaves. It's an old-time American gospel hymn. And the composer, Knowles Shaw, was of Scottish descent. He spent his early life in Indiana, where he first began to play the violin, and he would play it for dances in the community. And the story goes that while a dance was going on, he had a conversion experience, and he ceased to play in the middle of the piece that he was performing. And soon thereafter, he entered into Christian ministry. Most of his time after that was spent in the West and the South in America, and on account of his vocal powers, he was called the singing evangelist. Soon after beginning to preach, he began to compose and write music, and Bringing in the Sheaves was one of the last songs he wrote before he was killed in a railroad accident. It was inspired by Psalm 126, where verse 6 says, "Those who go out weeping, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, carrying their sheaves." Sowing seeds of kindness, sowing in the morning, sowing in the noontide and the dewy eve, waiting for the harvest and the time of reaping, we shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Sowing in the sunshine, sowing in the shadows, fearing neither clouds nor winter's chilling breeze. By and by the harvest and our labor ended, we shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Going forth with weeping, sowing for the Master, though the loss sustained our spirit often grieves. When our weeping's over, he will bid us welcome. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. And so, beloved, may we come forth, whatever you're feeling, whether it's rejoicing or whether it is silence or whether it is hardship, whether it is grieving, that you may bring all that you are, all that you have to this moment, to this new season as we turn a page and begin to consider the truths and the depths and the symbols of fall, of autumn, of harvest, and of preparing for a fallow season that we will explore together. For those that are feeling isolated, disconnected, may you find ways to reach out to others, to find a connection online, if not in person, and to give yourself space to cry, to grieve, to fall in the bed with exhaustion, to do what you need to tend to yourself in this fall season. Bless you and keep you this day. May God hold you and grant you the strength that you need until we meet again. Amen.